These are the kind of stories that make you think twice before ever stepping into the cornfield again. Hey there, welcome back to Sinister Scenarios. Tonight we're diving into something truly bone-chilling. 3 terrifying stories, all set in the middle of endless, eerie cornfields. What happened to these people might have been a nightmare, but for them, it was disturbingly real. My name's Adam, and I'm 16. My little sister, Lily, is 12. Our parents don't go out much, but when they do, they leave me in charge. Usually it's fine. I mean, we live on the edge of town in this old house, surrounded by cornfields. Not exactly party central, you know. But last Saturday was different. Mom and Dad went to some fundraiser in town, said they'd be back by midnight. It was around 8:30 when Lily and I heard the first noise. We were sitting in the living room. I was on my phone, and Lily was flipping through channels on the TV. It was quiet, except for the faint hum of the old box fan in the corner. Then we heard it. A thump, faint but distinct, coming from somewhere outside. Lily turned to me. "Did you hear that?" "Probably just a raccoon," I said, trying to sound chill. But I didn't feel chill. A few minutes passed, and I tried to forget about it. But then there was another noise, closer this time. It wasn't just a thump. It sounded like someone, or something, moving through the cornfield. "Adam," Lily whispered, her voice shaking. I stood up and walked to the window. The porch light cast a weak glow over the yard, but beyond that, it was just blackness and rows of corn swaying in the breeze. "See? Nothing's there," I said, even though I didn't believe it. Lily wasn't convinced. "What if someone's out there?" I laughed nervously. "Who? The cornfield killer?" But she didn't laugh. We went back to sitting on the couch, but I couldn't relax. My ears were tuned to every little sound, and the house felt wrong. Like it was too quiet, even with the TV on. And then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the back door. Lily jumped, clutching a pillow to her chest. "Adam, who is that?" I didn't answer. My heart was pounding. The back door led to the mudroom, which faced the cornfield. No one ever came to that door, not even delivery drivers. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. "Stay here," I told Lily, and started toward the kitchen. The house was dark, except for the faint blue glow from the living room TV. My footsteps felt deafening against the creaky wooden floor. When I reached the back door, I paused. My hand hovered over the light switch. "Hello?" I called, trying to keep my voice steady. No answer. I flipped on the light and peered through the window. The backyard looked empty. Just the porch, the overgrown grass, and beyond that, the endless rows of corn. I tried to tell myself it was just the wind, maybe a loose shutter or something. But as I turned away, I saw it. A figure, standing just at the edge of the cornfield. It was hard to make out any details. It was tall, hunched, and completely still. I squinted, trying to figure out if it was a person or just a shadow. "Who's out there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. Lily appeared behind me, tugging on my shirt. "What is it? What do you see?" "Go back to the couch," I said, pulling the curtain shut. "Now!" But before she could move, the figure stepped forward. And I swear, it wasn't walking. It was gliding, like its feet weren't touching the ground. I slammed the deadbolt shut and dragged Lily back to the living room. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. "Call Mom and Dad," Lily said, her voice trembling. I dialed, but the call wouldn't go through. No signal. I tried texting, but the messages just hung there. Unsent. Then we heard it again. The knock. This time, it was at the front door. "There's 2 of them," Lily whispered, her face pale. "No, there's not," I said, though I wasn't sure. "It's just one person messing with us." "Then how did they get to the front door so fast?" I didn't have an answer. I grabbed a baseball bat from the hall closet and motioned for Lily to follow me. "We're going upstairs," I said. "We'll lock the door to Mom and Dad's room and wait for them to get home." But as we reached the stairs, we heard something that froze us in our tracks. The sound of the back door creaking open. We sprinted up the stairs and into our parents' room, slamming the door and locking it behind us. I shoved a chair under the doorknob for good measure. Lily was crying now, trying to stay quiet, but I could hear her muffled sobs as we sat in the dark. I held the bat tightly, my ears straining for any sound. For a few minutes, there was nothing, just silence. Then came the footsteps. Slow, heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. I gripped the bat so hard my knuckles turned white. "Stay behind me," I whispered to Lily. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs and stopped. Then a voice. "Adam. Lily." It wasn't loud. It wasn't even threatening. It was soft, almost a whisper, but it was coming from the other side of the door. "How do they know our names?" Lily whimpered. "I don't know," I whispered back, my heart racing. The doorknob rattled. I raised the bat, ready to swing at anything that came through. But then the noise stopped. We waited for what felt like hours, but nothing else happened. No footsteps, no voices, just silence. When Mom and Dad got home around midnight, they found us still huddled in their room. We told them what happened, but they didn't believe us. Dad checked the doors and windows, said everything was locked tight. "You probably just scared yourselves," he said. But when I went to close the curtain in the living room, I froze. In the backyard, right at the edge of the cornfield, was something new. A scarecrow. It hadn't been there before, and its head was turned, facing the house. I don't know who or what was in the cornfield that night, but I do know one thing. I'll never be alone here again. I don't know how to start this without sounding crazy, but if you've ever lived near a cornfield, maybe you'll get it. My name's Jake. I'm 17 now, but this happened last fall, and I haven't been the same since. We live in a small town, like middle of nowhere small. Our backyard connects to this massive cornfield that belongs to Old Man Fisher. Everyone around here knows to stay out of that field, not because it's dangerous or anything, but because Fisher's a total psycho about trespassers. He's even got those no trespassing signs with the bullet holes in them, so you know he means business. But this isn't a story about Fisher. It's about what happened to Robbie. Robbie was my neighbor and my best friend. We hung out almost every day after school, just messing around, playing video games, whatever. He was the kind of guy who always wanted to push limits, you know? If there was a do not enter sign, he wanted to go in. If someone told him not to do something, that was all the reason he needed to do it. That's how we ended up in the cornfield. It was a Friday night, and we were bored out of our minds. Robbie had heard this stupid rumor at school about some kid who went missing, in the field, like 20 years ago. Apparently they never found the body, just his backpack or something. Robbie thought it'd be fun to sneak in and investigate. I told him it was a dumb idea, but he kept pushing. "Come on, Jake. What's the worst that could happen? It's just a field." I should have said no. We waited until it was dark so no one would see us. Fisher was usually asleep by 9 o'clock, so we figured we were safe. Robbie brought a couple of flashlights, and we climbed over the fence. The second we stepped into the cornfield, I knew something was off. It was too quiet. No wind, no crickets, just this eerie, heavy silence. Robbie laughed it off, saying I was being a baby, but I could tell he felt it too. We walked for a while, cutting through the rows and leaving marks in the dirt so we wouldn't get lost. At first, it was kind of fun, like we were explorers or something. But then, we found the scarecrow. It was just standing there, in the middle of the field, not tied to a post or anything. Its clothes were filthy, and the burlap sack over its head had this weird faded face stitched into it, crooked eyes and a wide, jagged smile. "What the hell?" Robbie muttered. I laughed nervously, trying to play it cool. "It's just a scarecrow, man. Probably Fisher's." Robbie walked up to it and poked it with his flashlight. "Yeah, but why isn't it on a pole?" Before I could answer, something rustled in the corn behind us. We both spun around, shining our flashlights into the rows. Nothing. "Probably just the wind," Robbie said, but his voice didn't sound so sure. We kept going, but the further we walked, the more I felt like we were being watched. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see someone, or something, following us. Robbie tried to act like he wasn't scared, but I could see his hands shaking. That's when we found the shoe. It was just lying there in the dirt, half buried, like it had been there for a while. A small, dirty sneaker. Robbie picked it up, and we both just stared at it. "You think this belonged to that kid?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't want to say what I was thinking. If the kid left his shoe here, where was the rest of him? We decided to head back. It wasn't fun anymore. It was just creepy. But as we started retracing our steps, the marks we'd left in the dirt were gone. "Are you kidding me?" Robbie said, spinning in a circle. "We just came this way." I grabbed his arm. "We're lost, Robbie. We need to..." Rustling, loud this time, like someone or something was moving through the corn. Fast. "Who's there?" Robbie shouted, shining his flashlight into the rows. No answer. Then, out of nowhere, something ran past us. I didn't see it, just a blur in the corner of my eye. But it was fast, and it made this horrible, wet breathing sound as it passed. "Run," I whispered. We took off, crashing through the stalks, not caring about the direction anymore. The thing behind us, it wasn't running. It was crawling, dragging itself through the dirt with this awful scraping sound. "Don't look back!" Robbie yelled, but of course I did. I only saw it for a second, but that was enough. It was low to the ground, its body twisted and broken looking, like it shouldn't be able to move at all. But it was fast, too fast. I grabbed Robbie's arm and pulled him forward, my chest burning as we ran. I could see the faint glow of a house in the distance, our house. We were so close. That's when Robbie tripped. I stopped, turned around, and saw him sprawled in the dirt, his flashlight rolling away. "Get up!" I screamed, running back to him. But he didn't move. His eyes were wide, staring past me at something in the corn. I grabbed his arm, yanking him to his feet, but it was like he was frozen. Then I saw it. A hand, long, pale, and bony, reaching out from the stalks, wrapping around Robbie's ankle. I don't know how I did it, but I kicked at the hand until it let go. Robbie snapped out of it, and we both bolted for the house. We made it back, slammed the door, and locked it. Robbie was shaking so hard he couldn't speak. I tried to call my mom, but the power went out before I could finish dialing. We spent the rest of the night huddled in the corner of the living room, jumping at every little noise. When morning came, we went out to the field with my mom and a couple of neighbors to look for, I don't know, proof? But there was nothing. No shoe, no marks in the dirt, no scarecrow, just empty rows of corn, swaying in the wind. Robbie moved away a month later. He never talked about that night again, and honestly, I don't blame him. But sometimes, late at night, I hear rustling outside my window, and I wonder if it's still out there, waiting for someone else to wander into the field. You know, I never liked the cornfield behind our house. It wasn't even ours. We rented this old farmhouse on the edge of town, but the field stretched for what felt like miles. My mom always joked that the corn was our neighbor's. Yeah, hilarious, right? I'm Ethan, by the way. I'm 17 now, but this happened last summer, and I still can't shake it. I wasn't one of those kids who spooked easily, okay? I didn't believe in ghosts or monsters or whatever. But after what I saw, I'm not so sure anymore. It started when my mom got a new job at this diner in town. She was working late nights a lot, so it was usually just me at home. That night, around 9:30, I was on the couch playing some game on my phone when the power flickered. Not a big deal. We live in the middle of nowhere, and the power's sketchy all the time. But then I heard it. A knocking sound. It wasn't at the door or the windows. It was faint, like someone tapping on a piece of wood. Out in the cornfield. I froze. It didn't sound like the wind or anything natural. It was deliberate, like someone wanted to get my attention. At first I tried to ignore it. I turned up the volume on my phone and kept playing, but the knocking didn't stop. It got louder, like whoever, or whatever, was out there didn't like being ignored. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my flashlight, shoved my feet into my sneakers, and stepped out onto the porch. It was pitch black except for the moonlight glinting off the tops of the corn. I waved the flashlight around and yelled, "Who's out there?" No answer. Just the rustle of the stalks swaying in the breeze. I told myself it was probably some animal, maybe a raccoon or something, but deep down I knew it wasn't. Animals don't knock. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe I was just trying to prove to myself that there was nothing to be afraid of. But I stepped off the porch and started walking toward the field. The air felt different as soon as I stepped between the rows. It was colder, heavier, like I'd walked into a freezer. My flashlight beam shook as I moved it side to side, but all I could see were endless walls of corn. Then, I heard breathing. Not mine. This was something else. Ragged, shallow breaths, just a few feet to my left. I swung the flashlight in that direction, but there was nothing there. I should have run back to the house right then. But instead, I called out again. "Who's there?" "This isn't funny." The breathing stopped, and then something laughed. The laugh wasn't loud, but it didn't sound like any laugh I'd ever heard. It was too high-pitched, almost like a child's, but warped and crackling like an old record. It sent chills down my spine. I started backing up, keeping the flashlight pointed in front of me. That's when I saw it. A figure, crouched low, just barely visible between the stalks. It was thin, too thin, and its arms were bent at weird angles, like it had too many joints. Its eyes reflected the flashlight beam, but not like an animal's. They glowed. It tilted its head and grinned, showing rows of sharp, uneven teeth. I froze. Then it whispered my name. "Ethan?" I don't remember turning around, but the next thing I knew, I was sprinting back toward the house. The stalks tore at my arms and legs, but I didn't care. I could hear it behind me, crashing through the corn, its laughter echoing in the dark. When I reached the edge of the field, I risked a glance back. Big mistake. It was closer than I thought, loping on all fours like some kind of demented spider. Its glowing eyes locked onto mine, and for a second, I thought it was going to grab me. But then I tripped. I hit the ground hard, the flashlight flying out of my hand. Before I could get up, I felt something cold wrap around my ankle. "Gotcha," it hissed. I screamed and kicked as hard as I could. My foot connected with something solid, and the grip loosened just enough for me to scramble to my feet. I didn't stop running until I was back inside the house, slamming the door and locking it behind me. For a second, I thought I was safe. But then the knocking started again, this time at the window. I didn't dare look. The next morning, the cornfield looked normal, like nothing had happened. I even went out there to check, but there were no footprints, no broken stalks, nothing to prove that what I'd seen was real. I told my mom about it, but she just said I must have had a nightmare. Maybe she's right. Maybe it was just my imagination. But every now and then, late at night, I hear knocking, and I know it's still out there. Don't ever go into a cornfield at night. You might not be as lucky as I was. If you enjoyed this story, you might want to check out our other videos and maybe consider subscribing. It really means a lot to the channel and helps us build a real community of horror lovers like you.